Everyone, this is 8bitDav back again with another video. Today we have a bit of an exciting topic. We're going to look at two different content management systems. We're going to look at Grav and WordPress, talk about some of their pain points, some of the things that each service does really well, and then talk about a little bit with in our scenario, whether we're trying to convince somebody to use Grav or to use WordPress, where we're actually going to make that case and how we're actually going to, be convincing somebody that one product is better than the other. So really quickly, this is a quick mock-up of the Bridge to Nowhere in Alaska that I mocked up within WordPress. This probably took close to maybe a little over an hour to gather information, make sure it's all plugged in correctly to the content management system. And over here is a different website with similar amounts of information that is built on the Grav content management platform. So really quickly going down and looking at some of the advantages of Grav over WordPress. Grav overall is simpler to use in regards to its interface and number of options. Quicker development from start to finish. While this website took maybe an hour, hour and a half, this one maybe only took closer to a half hour to 45 minutes based on some of the affordances of the tool. And within Grav, no need to set up a database, which can greatly improve the overall setup experience for a user within Grav. So where does WordPress come out over Grav? Come out on top of a Grav, rather. There's a much larger theme selection and much larger plugin selection within WordPress. I think that's a lot due to the fact that WordPress powers so much of the internet, and the community for WordPress is extremely large. Speaking of the community base being extremely large, those problems that people run into on WordPress are very much well documented. Places like YouTube and tech blogs, tech forums. A lot of the issues that programmers will run into on WordPress can be answered quite quickly over information that's already quite available on the internet. Where does Grav come up a little bit short? It doesn't scale well into large data sets. That's because it's all built on a flat file architecture. Doesn't have the full functioning capabilities of WordPress, so it's not quite as extensible as WordPress is in regards to the amount of different ways you can take the website and flesh it out to maybe handle some more unique business cases or some more unique presentation cases. And the community is small, which is a direct comparison to this larger community base where you might not be able to find the answer to some of your problems as easily. Some of the issues with WordPress, the number of options can be overwhelming for new users. I know the first time I had looked at WordPress, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, the amount of options that were there were quite alarming and challenging to wrap my head around, where to go to each section to find the information I need. Learning the tool may take some time, and more importantly, learning the tool to its full potential may take a considerable amount of time. I think that's where the content management system debate really gets underplayed, where really it might not take the most amount of time to learn WordPress. It would probably take a lesser amount of time to learn something like Grav than WordPress, but learning the tool to its full potential, because there's so many different things you can do within WordPress, this will take a considerable amount of time over a full mastery of the content management system Grav. So now that we've kind of reviewed a little bit about where some of these content management systems do great things, some of them do not so great things, what would I recommend for this Bridge to Nowhere, Alaska's Bridge to Nowhere project? I would actually recommend it to be built on the Grav system. And I think there's a few primary reasons for this. Number one, and probably one of the most appealing to stakeholders within the groups financing this project, would be that WordPress is hacked quite often. I believe if you just were to type in anything involving WordPress and plugin vulnerabilities, or just base WordPress vulnerabilities, you'll get hundreds and hundreds of different exploits that were found by either ethical hackers or unethical hacking groups that have really put the system to the test and are continuing to break it in new ways and continuing to take advantage of poor security functions that very frequently hacking these WordPress websites. So from strictly a security perspective, Grav comes out on top. Another reason I recommend the Grav system over the content management system WordPress is that Grav is, while its themes and plugin options might not necessarily be as as many as WordPress, they're growing, and that's because the tool is so new that there's a wave of new developers that are kind of like looking into the tool and picking it up as they go. So as more users continue to use the tool, the themes and plugins will just continue to rise and rise and rise, which will really put you ahead of the game for a tool, a content management system that could become extremely popular in the near future. Another really important thing that makes Grav so easy to use is the ability to write in Markdown. So again, Markdown is kind of a syntax for writing HTML code. So what happens in this pane would be if I was to put two different hashes here and then write text saying Grav rules. When this goes through the Grav CMS, I guess it would be technically a code compiler, this information in plain text in Markdown would get converted into HTML, which would then be displayed on the physical page of the website. What this really helps do is it helps new programmers where you add a vulnerability to code in HTML or code that you're writing yourself. It removes that ability on their end to make a mistake like that, which can be incredibly important for people that are not familiar as familiar with coding in HTML. And finally, I think the last reason that I'd recommend the Grav CMS over WordPress is that most websites, and this website in particular, doesn't need any sort of back-end database to support. And for that reason, there's no reason to build it anything other than a flat file architecture, which doesn't have a need for any of those back-end databases, doesn't have an extra need for much of the extensibility and affordances of a tool like WordPress. So based on those reasons, I feel that Grav would be a much better content management system to build this tool in for the bridge to nowhere, Alaska's bridge to nowhere. Thank you all so much. Have a good one.